Tonight, we celebrate Jewish values, treasured universally by all those who care to be good. Tonight we recognize that it takes a community, working hard together to sustain virtue, to communicate on to the next generation that good values are not a matter of philosophy, but also of action, day in and day out. In celebrating the work of artist and animator Hanan Harkel, who depicts his personal Jewish journey and who discovered a wealth of wisdom along the way. His work, showcased now in the gallery, communicates values in a way that changes a viewer's behavior for the better. Here is a notable segment of his work.
Talking about what you can do. I'm not going to let him walk all over me. Forgiving him doesn't mean you're approving of what he did. It just means that you forgive him. Why would I ever want to forgive him? He's probably just apologizing to get rid of his guilt. Does it really matter why he's apologizing? If I let him get away with this, he'll be laughing behind my back. I'll lose all self-respect. How is your self-respect connected to what he did or does? If people heard I forgave David, they'll think I'm the schmendrick. When are we going to talk about you? I thought that's what we've been doing. First you're worried about him laughing at you. Then you're worried about what other people think of you. That's not you. That's your ego. Whatever. Even if I were to forgive him hypothetically, I would still be angry with him. Well, that's not really forgiving him then. What do you mean? If I forgive him, I forgive him. That's maybe how it works when you give a homeless guy on the street $1. Even if you don't really want to give him the $1, you still gave him the $1 and helped out a homeless guy. But that's not how forgiveness works. You have to really mean it. And if you're still angry, then you can't mean it. I just hope he's paying you the rent. Paying me? He stole from me. He's not paying me anything. What rent? What are you talking about? Talking about the fact that he's living inside your head. He's obviously taking up a lot of room there. I mean, when did this happen? 2 years ago? And you're still talking about him? So, how much is he paying you? Living in my head, rent-free. I never thought about it that way. It's just, I can't let it go. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. What do you mean? Now we're finally talking about you.
Historian Paul Johnson offers the following perspective. Judaism has managed, better than any culture known to me, the delicate balance between individual responsibility and social responsibility. The challenge remains, what leads people to choose to act respectfully and responsibly? It's all about the choices that we make.
In this world, is one who resents or one who forgives. Realize that you are free to choose. It's your choice. But my advice to you is find a way to choose forgiveness.
So, there are a couple of things about faith that I learned that I think are really moving for me. The first one is in the religious view, in the Jewish view of faith, at least as I understand it, it's not just about a trust or a hope or a belief, but it's also about action. You know, there's something about the actual moment where you're making a decision, where you're actually moving forward and doing something, and you do that with an act of faith. This is it's this very intentional, conscious, connected, aware idea. And I think there's something really lovely about it. It's not sitting back and saying, okay, everything's going to be taken care of. You're an active part of this, and you're basically saying, and sometimes that's going to mean that things are still going to go wrong. That's okay. It doesn't change the fact that in the moment you did it with an act of faith. And
in the Torah, God states about Abraham, the founding Jewish father, "For I love him, because he commands his children and his household to keep my ways, doing charity and justice." Tonight, we celebrate the teachings of our Torah, as depicted by Hanan Harkel in his celebrated animations, and as vigorously taught at our Soille San Diego Hebrew Day School. When the exhibit opened here, middle school students from Hebrew Day had the opportunity to meet and interact with Hanan. Here was his reaction.
Thank you, Rabbi Weiser, for bringing your class to the JCC to see my work, and for the privilege of working with your students. Their deep understanding and sensitivity to the nuances in the teachings were truly remarkable, and especially for students so young.
Let's look at Hanan's most recent animation.
So listen to this, Daddy. Last week, I had to fly to LA for a conference. So I board the airplane. Wait, was this for your... What is it that you do again? My animated series on ethics. Are you telling me people are actually still interested in hearing your mishigas? So do you want to hear my story? No? So, I board the plane, and I'm just getting comfortable in my seat with my book, when all of a sudden, in the row next to me, a baby starts shrieking. Oof. Tell me about it. I'm thinking, the one time I'm not being woken up by Benjamin screaming, and then end up sitting next to this car alarm. And I mean, this baby was loud. Even the other parents who were sympathetic at first were getting annoyed. What's the problem? Change your seat. Thank you, Einstein. Of course I looked for a free seat. That's the first thing I did. But there were already like 10 people racing each other to find a seat. And the baby kept screaming. So what did you do? So I'm sitting there trying to figure out what to do. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see a little 3-year-old boy wiggling out of his seat. He toddles over to the screaming baby and offers the baby his own pacifier. Psh, wow. I know. Here we were, a plane full of grown-ups trying to solve our problem. Meanwhile, this 3-year-old boy was the only one trying to solve the baby's problem. The boy is the only one who actually heard the baby. Kindness is one of the most beautiful human qualities, Hanan. The challenge is to actually make the choice to stand in the other person's shoes and help them.
In teaching children to be kind and to consider others, the Jewish people have historically relied on 3 pillars: in-depth Torah study, which inspires the student, surrounding the child with kindness and role models who act kindly, and guiding the child to put kindness into action, to choose to act kindly.
Imagine a hungry wild bear in the woods that finds some food. And just as the hungry bear is about to eat the food, he's approached by a strange bear who's dying of starvation. Now, what is the chance that the bear will say, "You know what? You look a lot hungrier than me. Why don't you have this food?" A wild animal has to follow his impulses, his drives. But human beings have a choice. A human being can even choose to not eat at all. When have you seen a wild bear choose to go on a diet?
I got the idea of making Torah wisdom accessible to non-religious people like myself. I would create animated conversations between my parents and me, calling it Jewish Food for Thought, the animated series. Curiously, my father developed a strong interest in the project. Once, with my infant son Benjamin sitting on my lap, I shared the Torah passage commanding us to love your fellow as yourself, and the accompanying commentary noting that Rabbi Akiva considered this the greatest principle of the Torah. Suddenly, my father burst into a Hebrew song that summarized Akiva's teachings, which he learned on the kibbutz as a child. Both Benjamin and I were smiling broadly as my father sang the song.
Benjamin, I'm going to sing a song for you. Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, ואהבת לרעך, לרעך כמוך, ואהבת לרעך, לרעך כמוך. זה כלל גדול, גדול בתורה, זה כלל גדול בתורה, זה כלל גדול, גדול בתורה, זה כלל גדול בתורה.
Communicating Torah values, Jewish thinking, and greatness from one generation to the next, this is our most sacred challenge. Tonight, in San Diego, we celebrate together the fabulous work being done by Hanan Harkel, and we celebrate the 52-year legacy of Soille San Diego Hebrew Day School in raising 2 generations of children inspired to take Jewish thinking to heart and to aspire to virtue.
The essence of Torah education is becoming a good human being, and Hebrew Day School is expert at infusing students with a sense of morality and common decency. I've always thought of the day school as a magic black box. You feed students in and they come out better people. Graduates of the Hebrew Day School are both good Jews and good human beings.
We look forward to sustaining the development of San Diego's children as they grow to become young men and women distinguished by their caring, their respect toward one another, and their commitment to a sustainable Jewish future. Thank you for joining us this evening.